all year long, you're going to be hearing net sheets on the buyer side and the seller side. You know, we got to be running net proceed sheets for these people, or helping them with it, because obviously you may not know all of the things that are going into them selling the house. Hopefully you have a relationship where they do share that, the balance on the mortgage and things like that. But I think sellers get so, I mean, when I sold my house, when you've sold your houses, anybody listening, if you sold a house, you get this idea in your head of like, ooh, well, if I sell it for this price, I can, you know, and maybe you do a quick little commission calculation. Well, I'm going to save this much money by doing it myself because I'm an agent.
Welcome back to Life at 10 Tenths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. I've got my friend Matt Benelli with me. My name is Garrett Fry, and we are going to be with you today for, I don't know, about half an hour, 45 minutes. But we are excited to jump into a new topic, new episode with you. I'm still going to tell you, if you haven't got your business plan done, go check out our business planning. If you've listened to any of our last month, 2-month episodes worth of episodes, you have heard about our business planning by now. You're probably sitting there going, darn it, I should have gone and done it. You still can. It's at our website, lifeat10tenths.com. Go sign up. And
but make haste, because Garrett, I think we're like maybe 10 days left of that being available to sign up, because we'll have the content there through the end of February for everybody, so that if you sign up towards the end, you still have plenty of time to get through it. But the signups close January 31st, or I guess that's the last day to sign up. They don't close
that
on
is
that
the
day.
last day to come and download everything and get involved with everything. And then again, that'll give you 30 days to get your business plan done.
Yep.
With that being said, Matt, we left 2025 with people hanging on to listings, people that I coach were getting a hold of me and going, I don't understand what's wrong with this listing. It's not selling. I don't understand why it's not selling. And as much from a coach's perspective, you can say the property is overpriced. And they go, no, it's not overpriced. You got to understand, this is a gem. It's a really nice home. It's in a great location. It's got all these great things. It's priced right. And I'm like, I think you're missing that it's priced right, because all the buyers out there don't want to buy it. So at some point we have to come back to price. And then, but it's just the time of the market right now, Matt. Things just aren't quite moving as fast right now. So we just need to be patient. I hear that. Do your sellers need to sell? Oh, they really need to sell. Okay, great. Now we're back to what will buyers be willing to pay. And this brought us to our topic today, because we're entering into 2026, and I'm watching agents still saying, I have listings that are sitting here right now, which led me to a line that I picked up here a couple weeks ago, which is, if your sellers are sitting right now with a home that's not selling, you might need to remind them that they are currently the highest bidder on that property. And when I saw that, I was like, that is truth. That is the truth. That's what led us here, Matt. Good morning, sir.
I love the idea. Good morning. And because it's true, right? I mean, because I put myself in like an auction scenario, right? And there's kind of two ways I looked at this. You have an auction that has a reserve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, well, we're not going to sell it unless it gets to this price, right? And you see auctions all the time where people will bid up, and then there's like sold, but not sold because you didn't hit the reserve. And no one knows what the reserve is, right?
Mystery.
Which is a really fun way to run an auction. And I actually saw this happen at a luxury property auction once. There was a reserve, but there was a miscommunication with the guy who runs the auction, the auctioneer.
Yeah, auctioneer.
And he's like, sold to this guy. And then they went in the back room and they're like, it's not sold to that guy. And they're like, whoa, right? But what was interesting, it was sold still at a price where people were like, that's a really good deal, but hey, at least they got this property sold. And I was like, that is the pure example of the seller's the highest bidder. They set the reserve way too high. And in that scenario, they couldn't sell it. The other thing that I thought of is, imagine an auction going on, and the seller's sitting there and the bidding's going on and it's slowing down to the price. And the seller's like, oh, I don't want to sell it for that. And they just like jump over the top and they're like, 700,000. And people are like, who's that guy? It's like, that's the seller, but like, he can't buy his own property. He already owns it. Right.
He's like, I got the number up though.
Yeah. It's like, oh, now we bid it up and then nobody else can get it. And when you said the timing thing there, it's like, yeah, on a different day, maybe you have a different set of bidders, but you're on the market now. You're looking to sell now. You're in this market, and you can sit there and be the highest bidder if you want to be, but then you're not a true seller.
Yeah.
So, and that's the way I was looking at it. And I just love this concept.
Well, and this goes back to, we haven't seen it for a while, but now we have properties that are sitting a little bit longer. It's not like I can throw anything on the market and it's going to be sold tomorrow or within the week. We saw that 2020, 2021, 2022. We saw that marketplace. We still remember that marketplace, by the way, too. So anytime that anything is like sitting for any period of time, it's like, what's happening? Like, what does this all mean? But I really do think, like, one is, you always got to ask yourself is, did I list a home or did I list a seller? And usually when you're sitting there and you're banging your head against the wall and you're contacting your what we thought was a seller and saying, we got to reduce the price, we got to reduce the price. And they're like, we're not budging. Like, we're not doing it. I'll stay in the house. I'll live in it for the next 10 years. I am not selling that house at that price. Guess what? You don't have a seller on your hands is what you have. You have somebody that has decided what their home is worth, and they're willing to own it for that. They're willing to hold on to it. They're willing to be the high bidder on it and be like, unless somebody comes in higher than me, I'm not budging. This is an interesting place that you have to say, can I figure out if this person's a true seller? Because I'm not saying as the agent, you just go, oh, crap, I don't have a seller. Well, I'm canceling this contract. I'm walking away from this person. Good luck for them. I'm not wasting any more time. More often than not, what you have to do is bring them back into a real position of, do we actually have a seller here in front of us? And a lot of it's just asking the right questions, Matt. If you sit down with somebody and really figure out what made you even want to put this home on the market to begin with? What life are you not living right now that you wish you could be living? Where would you want to be right now? Well, we'd really like to be closer to the grandkids. No kidding. All right. Well, what would that look like if you were closer to the grandkids? And sometimes we spend so much time just trying to get them to drop by $20,000. And we're not focusing on what would your life look like closer to the grandkids. And we wonder why we just keep hammering on price and they keep saying no. They're confused. And you're sitting here saying, I don't understand what we got to do because they want this price and they're not willing to take any less. And I'm now stuck. And we have to dive deeper and we have to ask more questions.
I was thinking about your highest bidder analogy too. And I wonder if this is a good conversation to have up front, because everything you just went through, getting people to reduce, there's a mindset component. Like when you are reducing a price, and whether you're selling an old iPhone on Facebook Marketplace or you're selling your house, even if you know it was overpriced to begin with, the back of your mind's like, I just gave up that much money in the price reduction. I just lost that much money when it's money you never had to begin with anyway. And so having this going into a listing, it's so important. And just because you have a stubborn seller, you're right, Garrett, doesn't mean you don't have a seller.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more than just the money that goes behind whether you have a real seller or not. There's a lot of other things at play. I was having this conversation with a client I don't even remember how long ago it was, but it was a seller who was on the market because their spouse wanted to move to another area, but they didn't really have the means to do it. And I guess this couple wasn't communicating very well internally. And so they just put the house on the market, but they kept the price high to prevent the ability to move, but kept the dream alive. And actually the book that we're reading right now, The Courage to Be Disliked, they talk about doing things in a way that helps you keep a dream alive without realizing it by putting the excuse on something else. And sometimes people do that. Mm-hmm. So back to this highest bidder thing up front, if we talk about this with sellers and have this conversation of, hey, here's what it means when we do pricing and all this stuff and understanding how it works. And if this is what the market's going on, like we have to understand we're the highest bidder. Here's an analogy. You can even share the story that I shared because that was a real scenario. That was a luxury property, this auction that I went to, and it was hilarious. I mean, that all of a sudden this reserve and this property had been on the market for years, Garrett. Yep. Years this property had been on the market. They're fine, let's do the auction and see if we can sell. They had well qualified buyers in this room. I mean, there was a lot of people at this auction finally, right? And the seller still, the reserve was just too high. They're like, I'm not selling it. And it's like, well, they're the highest bidder. And so years later, it's still on the market. It did finally sell, but
So
they could, I think it sold for the price or even a little bit less than what they would have gotten at the auction. I can't verify that. I mean, I can go back and verify it, but I'm not for sure. But that's what happens. So having that conversation up front, Garrett, I think can be very, very helpful in helping you determine, do you have a seller, or just educating them on the mental process of going through this.
Well, anytime we're entering into a working relationship, I think it's massively left on the table a little bit, where we don't talk about it enough about what is this current marketplace that we're entering into right now. You know, we get very much into what are we going to do? Well, we're going to do this advertising, and we're going to have your home in this magazine, and we're going to have it over here, and we got all this stuff going on. Oh, I got drones. I got all kinds of drones, and we're going to do 3D videos of the inside of the house. And look, I got a new 360 camera, and I can walk through and check out this little video I just recently did. And social media. Look at my social media stuff I do, and how we're going to showcase your home. We do that. But I don't think we do enough up front of saying, what is this marketplace that we're about to enter into, and what can you expect from this marketplace? And I don't think it's a bad idea to say we are seeing homes that are sitting longer right now. If homes are missing the mark right now, if they are showing up wrong based on things that the buyers choose, location, condition, features and amenities, square footage and lot size, and also price. These are all ways that the buyers are going to come in and they're going to look at your home, and based off those 5 things, they're going to go, yeah, this all fits. This looks really good. But if we go on the market and we're sitting there and we're not getting showings, let's say no showings are coming in at all. We got all the marketing pieces out there. We got all these things. There's a lot of people out there that are saying, okay, based on what I can see on the photos, what I can look at right here, the size and square footage and the location of where it's at, I don't even need to go see it at that price. I just don't. It's not worth my time. It's not worth my energy. Sometimes even the listing agent will go, oh, how do I get them not to go look at this house? This is a waste of our time. You've all done it. You know what I'm talking about. It's like, this is a waste of my weekend going out to go look at that house, because they're going to get out there and they're going to go, oh my gosh, who do they think they are that they're going to be getting this much for this house? We protect ourselves from those things. So I think going into it up front with a new seller that you're sitting with and saying, here's what we're going to try to do. Here's how we're going to hit the marketplace, but these are the things we need to pay attention to. And if these things happen, you might be the high bidder on your property. And it's not a attack. It's not you're overpriced. It's just, hey, you see value in this house at a certain price point that the rest of the marketplace they're not finding that there, and you get to make a decision. We either drop the price down to where the buyers in the marketplace say, you know, I'm willing to buy it at that. I'm willing to entertain that. Or you keep it. I mean, you're the owner of it right now. You get to keep this thing if you want to. And how long do you want to keep it for? Is it even an option to keep it? And I think for most people, it's easy as a seller to go, well, if this thing doesn't sell, we'll just stay there. More often than not, when that actually has to play out, that is not even remote the option. What, you're going to keep it vacant rare while you're living in another city? I'm sorry. No, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And I've seen it happen, but it's very rare. And I think, Garrett, this is why, like, and I'm going to hammer this all year long. You're going to be hearing net sheets on the buyer side and the seller side. You know, we got to be running net proceed sheets for these people, or helping them with it, because obviously you may not know all of the things that are going into them selling the house. Hopefully you have a relationship where they do share that, the balance on the mortgage and things like that. But I think sellers get so, I mean, when I sold my house, when you've sold your houses, anybody listening, if you sold a house, you get this idea in your head of like, ooh, well, if I sell it for this price, I can, you know, and maybe you do a quick little commission calculation. Well, I'm going to save this much money by doing it myself because I'm an agent, you know. But if you run the net, then it's like, well, this is actually how much money I will get at different prices. And I would recommend, like, let's run like a range. Like, hey, if we run in this range, we can maybe net from this range to this range. Now, I'm not a fan of like listing prices in whole wide ranges per se, but when sellers start to look at the money in their pocket, because a list price isn't real money in their pocket. So when contracts come in or offers come in and they're low and all this stuff, a lot of emotions can get in there because it's not money in their pocket. But when they're looking at net, like if I'm going to hand you, like, here you go, here's a briefcase of money. And you're like, yeah, it's a little short. It's like, but this is money that you can have right now. Like, that's it. This is the net. You know, it gets a little different in terms of how people act when the money is right there in front of them. And the net proceeds is that thing. And I don't think enough agents, Garrett, go through that process with their sellers up front for sure. And I know some may do it like when offers come in, but this should be done up front of understanding like, here's how it's all going to work. So like, yeah, because a list price, you could reduce it, but maybe the terms will change, right? You know, maybe you reduce to a point where, yeah, you know what? We're not going to include the buyer commission in that price point, or we're not going to include the incentives. We're not going to include the closing costs. I had this conversation with an agent the other day. They were telling me about this offer that their buyer wanted to make, and they're like, how do I help this buyer understand? Like, they were going to pay they didn't want to pay full price for this property. You know, so they came down a little bit, but they asked the seller to include all of this stuff, which pushed it like it basically would have been like a really low offer if you just put all that stuff into the actual offer price.
Yep.
And she's like, they don't understand. And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, the seller's thinking about how much money they're taking home off of that. Like, they don't care that the price might be good. Like, yeah, it was close to list price, but they just asked the seller for like $60,000 back at the closing table. These are the things that are at play. And so you can make adjustments in list price and use the terms of the agreement to maybe negotiate something. Still, though, you do need to be honest about the marketplace, as you said, Garrett, and understand that, hey, I know you want this, but we have to see what is available and what is the opportunity for you to receive, because fair market value is not just one party's decision. It is two-party decision. You need a willing and able buyer and a willing and able seller without any, you know, pressure on either end to agree.
So you bring up a really interesting thing with the net sheets, because I mean, I got licensed back in, you know, gosh, 2003. That's when I first got licensed.
Oh my gosh.
2003 is when I first got licensed, and I held my license up to, I think it was like 2010 or something like that. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to be a full-time coach and go down this direction. And what was interesting is way back then, with all the real estate classes I was around, all the training I was doing, even the organization I was with and training with before, we didn't talk about net sheets. We really didn't get into, let's sit down and break down everything about where you stand, what your loan is on this property, what are all the moving parts that we have, so we can clearly say, this is how you did on this property. Because it's an interesting thing as a seller. My neighbor next door moved into, I've been here for 14 years, give or take. My neighbor next door has been there for, let's say, 5 years. Interesting thing is that when we go to sell, there's a very good chance, as just sellers who all we look at is the list price and we look at the sales price of the properties, their home probably could sell maybe for a little bit more than mine. They've got way more manicured backyard. They've done some nice things to the house. And it's one of those things that I could easily go, gosh, they made more money on their house than I did. Like, they made more money on that home off of a sales price. I could go and get locked into that. And so now when I'm going to go list, I'm going like, no, I'm hanging strong. I know what my neighbor's home sold for, and I'm locked in. We're getting that at least, because God, I'm not going to let him make more money on his house than I made on my house. My house is really nice too. The interesting thing is, I bought it 14 years ago. I bought it as is. I bought it at a screaming deal. I bought it at a price that people have come around our area and they're like, what, like, you know, when you have just conversations with your friends and things like that, like, what did you guys actually buy this home for? And I will tell them the price. Like, how the hell did you do that? It's just like, well, it was a bad situation for a seller in a marketplace where things weren't moving very fast, and we were the right place at the right time, and we made something happen here. On the net sheet is going to look so much better on my property than the property next door.
Yeah.
So much better based on what we did in the time that we lived here. So all of a sudden, as a seller, if you're focusing on a net sheet with me, I now have an opportunity to be like, oh my gosh, look at what this property really has been for us. And it's not just the sales price on it. It is where we purchased it, where our loan was, all these factors. And all of a sudden, I'm not locked onto that thing. It is missed. Net sheets weren't being done back then. I'm amazed how many people don't talk about them, Matt. And I would love it if we hammer on this through this year and we help people really understand what net sheets are. Because moving forward, I think helping sellers be able to be sellers and to be comfortable and figure out where they are and where they stand, a net sheet is a great spot to go, oh, so it's not just the sales price on this. Like we're trying to figure out what are we walking with.
Well, when you start to look at the actual dollars that go into somebody's pocket, they can make better financial decisions, because I find it interesting, that people won't reduce the price of a property, but they'll go spend a certain amount on a vacation, right? And well, that people say those are two different things. And like, yeah, but are they? We're talking about experience here. We're talking about your life. And I would argue that the experience you're going to get from making the move that you want to make is going to be way better than the experience you're going to get from a single vacation. Now, yes, the cost of whatever adjustments you might need to make in your price point are different than the cost of a vacation. And the vacation, you get to choose, do I want to depart with this money or do I not? Whereas with the house, you have to say, do I want to accept this amount of money, or do I want to keep this? And that's the true decision. It's not, do I want more money? It's just, do I want to accept this amount of money, which may not be as much as I thought it was, or do I want to keep this asset and this lifestyle? But if I accept this money, which is real money that I got to put in my pocket, and I can go to my lifestyle. Now, I understand for those of you who are working with people who are selling and buying at the same time, there's some nuance there. But on the buyer side, the same thing. Okay, you're going to spend $5,000 on a vacation, and we're talking about maybe coming up with an extra $5,000 to buy this house that's going to be your life for the next 10 to 20 years.
Yep.
That's kind of worth it at some point, right? And that'll become clear in the net sheet. And on the buyer side, having a cash flow sheet, you can have a net cash sheet that shows here's really how much money that you are putting out for purchasing this property and what it's going to cost you long term. And at the same point, when you're submitting offers, don't assume that the listing agent is going over a net sheet with the seller. Put one in there for them to do the math, right? Particularly if you're asking for your commission dollars to be pulled into that purchase price. Put it all out there and show what they're actually getting as a net. Because one, that's going to show that you're professional. And two, it's going to help the seller do real math so they can compare you against other offers instead of just looking at, well, this person's asking for more commission, so the answer is no, when maybe your net is higher than the other net. Because maybe the other offer is not asking for commission, but they're asking for closing costs and you're not. These are two totally different things when it comes to the sellers making a positive decision for them when they look at the net and the other terms, of course. So I love that.
One of our might have been our last episode that I'm thinking about now, when we talked about, the reason that people move, number one reason people move is, community and friends and family. And this is where I go back to, obviously we need to be able to show them the numbers and get them very clear. We need to show them the marketplace and what to expect out here and what is happening and what's going on. But I go back to the other thing is we need to bring them back to what is the lifestyle that they're looking for something different in their world. Because it's an interesting thing when you're making a move, let's say to be closer to your friends. Maybe you want to be on the golf course, be able to look out on your back porch and see your friends playing golf and be able to go out there and hit 9 with them and then, go back to your house. Like there's a lifestyle there and there's a fun part that you're sitting there going like, okay, I could have that. And then we get so stuck in this moment of selling this house and hunkering down and going, I'm not giving in on this. And again, as an agent, this is one of our opportunities to sit back and say, well, what was causing us to do this to begin with? Let's look at all the factors here. Let's look at all the pieces. Are you willing to give up that time? And I look at this as like, as we're all getting older, it's like, how far do you want to kick that can down the road of that life that you might have? Because you might look at it at some point and all your friends that are out there living that life on the golf course right now, they might be too old by the time you get there to actually have the dream that you see in your mind right now. That might have been something that could have happened 5 years ago, but it isn't going to happen right now. These are things you really need to sit down and help people understand that you don't have all the time in the world to go and create this life that you want to have. And let's really get clear on what we're doing here. It's amazing, Matt, how fast people can lock into a price. And I think a lot of it's pride. I think a lot of it is, they're going to have to tell their friends maybe what they potentially sold their home for and how much they had to give up. And their friends know what they listed it for and how much they came down for it. I was talking with an agent in Texas the other day, and we were talking about doing just sold postcards. And he's like, nope. And I was like, really? And he's like, we live in a state that, it's a non-disclosure state for price. And he says, it's like a thing that you don't want people knowing what you bought and sold your property for. Like, it's just this like silent piece. And I was like, that's interesting, because it kind of takes the like that whole like everybody's going to know what I sold my home for. I mean, obviously there's ways to find out, but it takes that like in your face, I had to sell for this amount off the table, and allows you maybe takes the pride off the table a little bit, where you can get stuck. I don't know, just a thought that I just randomly had here.
It might, yeah. I mean, it's such an interesting. That might be another podcast topic, and better understand the disclosure, because if you request it, agent can provide it through the MLS. It's probably on the tax record. Maybe it's not, but anyway, Garrett, I love the analogy, man. So for those of you out there, if you have properties that are sitting on the market right now and you're struggling with how do I have the conversation with my sellers, first thing is make sure you're doing your customer service calls every week, so you're getting clear on where they truly want to go. But then have the conversation to say, hey, you know what? If we're going to stick here, we have to understand, and you can use we in this scenario as well. You don't have to put it on the seller. We have to understand that we are the highest bidder on this property currently. And I'm pretty sure that we don't want to sell it to ourselves. And then just see where it goes from there. I mean, I think that's a great way to approach it. I love this, Garrett.
Well, have fun with it out there. Again, I've had a couple people that have already come into this new year that I've shared that with, and they're like, that's a conversation I need to have with my sellers right now. And again, I will encourage you, don't come across it as like just be gentle. They're already in a fragile state if they're sitting there and they're frustrated. But Matt, I actually am more excited about what you said of what if we led into the listing presentation with, if we find ourselves in this position, this is what this means. There's so many conversations you can have before the problem exists that you can't have during the problem. So, it's like if you're helping somebody cook a steak, there's a way that you can help guide them to cook the steak up front so it's not chewy and dry. It's very difficult to go, oh, let me tell you afterwards. I know we were putting it on the grill earlier, but now that I see what you've created here, these are all the ways you've screwed up your $20 steak. There's better times to have certain conversations, and there's times that you just kind of sometimes need to let it be, because all you're going to do is rub salt in the steak, rub salt in the wound. No, it's okay.
Well, yeah. Well, it was a little salt in the steak is good, but what you explained there, I love the steak analogy too, because it highlights that having a story to tell helps all the time. Like if you come up to me and you say, this is the way you make a steak, and that's all you say, and I'm like, yeah, but I think I should let it cook a little bit longer. I'm like, no, this is the way you make it. I'm like, okay, cool. But like, I think I know better because it's my steak, right? I'm obviously wrong in this situation, potentially. But if you come into me and say, hey, this is the way I have found to cook a steak, because let me tell you a story. One time I cooked it this way and it was terrible. Left it on the stove too long, put it in the oven for too long. Like the sear wasn't perfect. I used a different type of oil. So what I found is when you use this stuff, it comes out perfect. Now I'm like, oh, experience, a story. I don't want to end up like the dude chewing on the burnt steak. I don't want to end up like the seller at the auction where they're sitting there, basically with all these people in their house that now have to leave knowing that the house did not sell. Right. And then they don't know where the reserve is either. They're like, well, that was a lot of money, but I guess that wasn't enough to buy this house. I'm not willing to pay more. So many interesting things that you can do up front. Love stories. If you can lead with a story, That will be helpful. If you have a personal one, great. If you don't, look for some other ones. Talk to your colleagues. This is why inner office communication is so great, because you can share a story from another agent. It doesn't have to be your story. They can still work. But like you said, Garrett, too, it's like being kind during these conversations is very important. You don't need to beat them over the head. That's why I like we're on a team together. They've hired you, or they're potentially going to hire you. You're going to be on a team together. And this is how you can move forward together to achieve a goal where they get the bulk of the money at the end of the day, which is a pretty cool thing for them. So
100%.
Lovely. Love it. Cool. With that being said, Garrett, awesome topic. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we have some fun things in the works for this year that we'll be announcing as we go through. But for now, business planning is still available. You have about 10 days or so to hop into our business planning, 10tense.co/GPS. It's a very low investment for you to make to get access to 4 great sessions. And when you finish your business plan and send it to us, you get access to our quarterly masterminds for free. Totally free. You just submit your business plan. That's your reward for doing a business plan, because Garrett and I are on a mission to actually have people finish a business plan, not just a 10-day business plan workshop and say, yeah, I went through a business planning thing. It's like, well, did you do it? And did you stay on track? And that's what we're going to be doing in these quarterly masterminds throughout the year. So appreciate you guys. Love you guys a lot. If you're listening on audio, head over to YouTube, watch us on video. It's a hoot. You'll have a lot of fun with that. You can like and subscribe and all the things there as well. And we will see you on the next episode. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you.